Did any of the other racers ever pick up onto your reliability? Like, they're all blowing their stuff up left and right, and you're riding skateboards and hanging out and, visiting people. Did they ever figure it out, or did they just not believe it?
No, several guys have told me later, in recent time, that they knew we had something figured out, but they didn't know what it was, and they didn't know how they could ever find it out. So they just said, "We don't know," and they just had to
just left it at that, huh?
Yeah, and then we would try to make that be better than it actually was. We really worked hard at home, so we'd have the most amount of time to goof off, and we'd do the most we could down at the other end. While Mike and his girlfriend are packing the parachute, we could service the thing in 5 minutes once the reliability got way
Check
up.
the valve train real quick.
Just make sure we didn't have broken rollers and
something.
Anything.
Pack the chutes and
5 minutes we could push it back, and sometimes we would do it, especially on the East Coast guys that come out. It was always fun to mess with them because you couldn't mess with the locals because they knew your whole act. They just ignore you. But the East Coast guys, they had heard about you, and so they heard about all of us, and not just us. But anyway, we do our work down there, and then we just push and get it in line and go, "Gosh, you guys sure are smart, man. You guys work on it and everything."
Recently, Tom, I came across an article in National Dragster that has a great article on the development of your dual parachute system. I know that had a lot to do with Mike Sorokin and Bill Simpson, but in the article, Mike specifically says if this dual chute system had been around sooner, there would be more guys left racing with us.
Alive, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously that had a huge impact on safety. Do you have some thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, the dual chute. Whenever you had a problem with a single chute, like say something came out, and sometimes they wouldn't blossom, they get tucked underneath the car, and just the way the wind went.
Or a streamer or something.
Yeah, hang on the push. Something bad would happen. They were just without a chute, and they were on their own, and the dual chute just solved that problem. And then even cars, simple little cars like ours that didn't have anything to hang up on, generally wouldn't have any problem with a single chute, but still you had that coverage. And then if you really needed to get stopped, which in this article that Bob sent, for the very first time at Riverside, this 1965 or whatever it was, 65, he used both of them at one time. There was two little handles, and then you could pull one, or if he put it on the roll bar so he could slide his hand down the roll bar and just catch both of them if it was in a panic. So he just did that just as an experiment, and it stopped really quick. He's actually lucky it didn't rip the back of the car off.
That, and they had to go push it up to the...
because it's in that canyon.
The track went like this, and two chutes would stop it on the hill like this, and you'd have to go down and push it up to the turnout.
It mentions in the article that the front tires briefly came up about 12 inches off the pavement.
Yeah.
Due to the stopping force.
On the back of our car, the picture shows the back. No.
Not really.
No. Anyway, it was hooked around the center brace for the roll bar at the base of that, right where it met the top hoop.
Yep.
And so it was attached too high. And so it would, when it really pulled hard, it would pick the front end up, just do a little blip.
Right.
Pick the front end up. So it really should have been mounted lower.
Yeah.
But the car was built without parachutes in mind.
Yeah, true.
But Simpson also built face masks for Mike, fire suits for Mike. A lot of the safety equipment came about because of Mike's involvement.
Yes, and Simpson's genius. I mean, between them, they were a pair. And then during the week, Mike didn't have to work on the car or anything, so he would just come by and put in a cameo appearance. And then he would go by Simpson's a couple nights a week, and he and Simpson would work on things. And then So every week, Mike Sorokin was trying whatever the ideas they had come up with, whether it was a face mask or a whatever it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the development of those things went very quickly because they were, every week something was getting made, tested, remade, reinvented. You know, so
They made the face mask that snapped to the snaps on the helmet.
did they?
I remember that was one of the things that.
Oh, that's right, on the outside, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a famous
So a
story.
lot of little subtleties like that. You know, like say 1 week it didn't have the snaps, then they figure out if we snap it, then we don't have to worry about stuff getting in this gap at the
Right.
top of the helmet.
Right.
And the helmet bill had a lot to do with whether or not it tried to pull the helmet off your head.
Right.
Pete Robinson, there's a picture of Pete Robinson's crash, and the helmet is way up here.
Right.
Oh, that happened to all the cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have shots of Mike in the car at the Goodyear
The-
test.
the
with
tire test.
The tire test where his helmet's.
And the helmet
Oh, yeah.
progressively lifts off higher and higher as he goes down track.
Yeah. And everybody had that same problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about the enclosed cars, but the open cars
Yeah.
did.
There's the famous story.
Most everybody, certainly the low buck racers, had a trailer that probably wouldn't pass any kind of CHP inspection. Most of them had no fenders, no lights,
No spring.
no springs. The only springs were to let the air out of the tires a little bit.
Yeah.
And they towed all over the country with them.
Yeah.
Now, you guys raced locally, and you built a trailer. You built an open trailer. It was just an I-beam or a square beam tube trailer. But in '65, you decided to go on tour. Mike and Bob went on tour. You had to stay home for certain obligations, plus be their contact for things needed. So you built an enclosed trailer. You designed it.
Yes, I designed
You
it.
designed it, came up with it, and it had to be light because you towed it with that 55 Chevy, which only had a 6-cylinder in it. So here's a picture of this trailer, and it's not a real good picture. There's a couple more that at least gives you the idea of what it looked like. It was a pretty nice semi-aerodynamic trailer. At least it was pointy in the front.
That was part of the plan.
And
Like a glider hanger.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
it was built out of 2-inch square tubing and that trailer, aluminum trailer covering.
Just
But in this
pop it.
photo here, it shows something all along the side that Bob's looking at. Now, what would that be?
Those are 5-gallon military 5-gallon gas cans that we painted white. So the white signified water in containers, right? Like in the military.
Yeah.
So we painted them white because that way people would figure it was just water. Because if they knew what was in those cans, they would be.
Well, you had to
How
go
many-
through inspection stations all the way across the country.
How
right?
many gallons could you transport?
Oh, let's see, 1, 2, 12.
About 40 gallons.
No, more than that. You get a drum of fuel will fit in there, 55 gallons probably.
So you built those on the outside. Now, most everybody that had an enclosed trailer had room for tires, spare tires, and fuel cans inside. Yours are on the outside.
Well, we got a little carried away with our close tolerances. We had it all planned where they were going to fit inside. You put the cans, and then the car would be over just a few inches.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was real fine on paper, but the actual doing of that, getting the car in and out and stuff. So right at the last minute, we said, no, this isn't going to work. So we just welded some supports out and put a place to put the cans on the outside. Anyway, we made this trailer, and it's a space frame. It doesn't have a big channel iron, some kind of sturdy frame under it. It's just made out of square tube everywhere. And some of the tube has thicker wall than other tubes, depending on how much stress there was on them. I was going to college at the time, taking engineering and all that, mechanical engineering. So I stressed the thing for, I think, 9 Gs or something. So that,
In case that 55 got up to speed going
or if we dropped off some.
Drove it on the LA freeway.
Yeah, or yeah, even the LA freeways.
But it had cabinets inside to keep oil cans and stuff in, but they were up high, so they didn't affect getting the car in or out. Here's another photo that shows you putting the car in. Now, this is before the doors were on it, so it's brand new.
This is the day, our first time we're going to put the car in and see how it fits. This is when we realized this is right out behind the Red Apple garage. That's our garage over here. We had these 2 garages. We're out in the alley at the Red Apple, and the 3 of us are pushing this thing, and we figured out that I blew it basically on my close tolerance.
Now,
So-
did nobody try to hang around with you guys and be part of the crew?
Yeah,
Or did you just kind of run them off when they hung around too much?
yeah, we had different people would come around, hang out with us, but
Groupies?
But when it came to work, nobody was there. Right?
no, we didn't need much help. We kept ran a pretty simple operation. But all this, we're all looking inside. We're looking inside to see that we've got a problem.
Ruh-roh.
Hello.
And I've got my head in the furthest. And I know that
There's got to be more room in there.
there's got to be a little more room.
Yeah, jeez.
If we just get a micrometer and move the car over a few thousands,
I'm sure it's going to work out.
it's going to work.
And was it the bind with the front axle or the rear axle that wouldn't make it?
No, it'd be the rear, I think, because the front we could have just chopped the axle if we had to. It was the rear, I mean, you can't.
But if had you put the fuel cans in, then the front wheels wouldn't have cleared. You'd had to roll them in and then try to put the fuel cans in and to roll them out. So
No, the plan was to keep the fuel cans in there.
totally on the side, so you go right by them.
So you just lose the width of the fuel can. Well, the width of the fuel can was the extra space you needed. So
And
anyway,
that you missed.
we didn't have that.
Yeah.
There's another shot here. This is later after you're using it on tour, and you can kind of
Yeah.
see on the inside that there's not much to it. You can see the cabinet as up above there, and one of the white painted jerry cans,
Yep.
and actually a white water can looks like.
Yeah, that was a plastic thing for
Yeah.
for the water.
But and none of these pictures show. It also had a side door up toward the front that it's on the other side.
It's on the other side. Yeah.
This, in this photo right here, you can just see the edge of a swing boom that swung around and had a little kick-out door, and you could keep a spare motor,
Short lock.
short block in there,
That's overhead.
and be able to use a hoist and put it in and out of your car. But, so when you went on tour, you took a spare short block.
Yes.
Did you ever have to use it?
That I don't. Since I typically didn't go on most of the tours, I don't know exactly. I don't have a mental image of it. I suppose the parts did, but at that point our reliability was
Yeah,
extremely
that's what I
good.
was thinking. It was so good. Two spare tires, but one of them's larger than the other. So one of them's a trailer tire, one's probably a car tire.
Yeah. And then inside the trailer, there's another ledge where 2 more slicks fit in there.
Really? Okay.